I imagine y'all clapping because I'm late. But good evening, welcome. Thank you for your patience. I'm excited to talk to everybody tonight and kind of share some of the things that we did and accomplished in 2016, and kind of refresh your memories on some of the challenges that we had. And I know it's been scrolling for quite a while, but I want to personally thank some of the sponsors, because really without it, we couldn't have events like this. It's cost prohibitive. And so let me first start by thanking the Community Foundation for agreeing to present this event. One of the things is when we first started talking about it, I wanted to use this event to establish a strategic initiative fund at the Community Foundation. It's something we don't really currently have. Other communities have it, and I think Lafayette certainly makes sense for them to have one also. And so all the proceeds that come from tonight's event is going to establish the fund. And with that, I hope to then reach out to some of our local philanthropic family foundations to maybe match what we raise here and continue that year after year. And so after time, that's going to be a significant amount of money that will be available for us to do some really incredible things. We all know how slow government moves, but if we have a strategic initiative fund and there's something that needs a little bit of seed money, a little bit of capital to get off the ground, it allows us to react much more quickly and get that done. The next ones are the Daily Advertiser that I have to thank. They've been running ads for this event for I don't know how many months, and they've been a great partner. I've got David Dockan that made me ride in the car with him and do a Facebook Live video. He's here tonight, Facebook Live, and it's Daily Advertisers, the media partner, and they've been fantastic to work with, so thank you. Vidox, there was a bet on whether or not I would say it correct. Vidox Motion Imagery. You'll see tonight we have some videos. They did all of that work for us, didn't ask for a dime, just offered up their services, and they do such incredible high-quality work. I can't thank them enough. We also have community partners that I want to thank, the Acadiana Center for the Arts. For those of you that plan on experiencing the Showcase of Culture, you know, they help line up the musical acts, some of the poetry, all the different type of cultural events that you'll see going on in the showcase. They helped with LCVC and Ben Berthelot from the very beginning. I think Ben was one of the first ones that I talked to. Tremendous partner, has great vision and understands what we're trying to do. I met with Greg Gautreaux and Lita and their executive committee to talk about it, and they were thrilled and have gotten on board and been great partners. And then also One Acadiana, lent me staff, did whatever we needed help with, said, look, we'll make it work for you, so just tell us what you need. I also want to give a special thanks to Acadiana Open Channel. They're live streaming this, and they're also going to have it for broadcast after. So thank you to those guys. Arsamont Productions, Deep South Productions, Lowry's Pixis, all the cities of the municipalities within Lafayette Parish all got engaged, are all going to be part of the Showcase of Culture. They understood it's an opportunity for them to showcase what makes their community great. And so I know I'm looking forward to going back in the ballroom and seeing what they have to offer. And then the montage that you saw of the historical pictures came from Louis Perrette and the Clerk of Court. And so I think it was over 500 pictures that he made available to us to kind of cull through. And I would be remiss, and I know I'm being a little bit like a soccer dad or a Little League dad, but my middle son, Brandon, I want to thank him so much because he put together the slide montage, and I don't know what that little special effect thing that he did to make it look like it was kind of coming alive, but I know he spent a lot of hours because the light was on in the workroom for all hours of the night. So thank you, Brandon, for that montage. I appreciate that. They insisted that I not do this, but I want to thank Blair Green, Andre Gonsolin, Kate Durio, Joe Castile, Sidra with my office. Everything that you see up here, PowerPoint slides, everything, the build out, and then everything you see in the Showcase of Culture, one of them had something to do with putting that together. And it was a really big effort on their part, and they helped out in ways that I really can't express. So thank you all. Saying all that, it takes a lot of money. And so there's some sponsors that gave hard-earned cash and actually wrote checks. And so I kind of saved them for last. First, I want to thank Terry and LUS Fiber that came on board and really underwrote it at a level to where I knew, okay, we're going to be able to get this done. And it made it that much easier for us to accomplish what we're going to put on tonight. Iberia Bank and Southern Lifestyle Development, Jerry Vasquez, Robert Daigle, Rodney Savoy, Mike Gudros, Kevin Blanchard. Those guys came up with additional cash for us, and really the sponsors that I'm going to go through here that you've seen, they gave us enough money to put everything on, which means any ticket sales that we have go straight into the community foundation. So I wanted to take a chance to thank them. So Jerry, thank you, and Southern Lifestyle folks, thank you all. The next group is Mellow Joy, Wayne Elmore, Steve Oates, and Larry Marino, and Herb Schilling and Schilling Distributing. Obviously, they're always, those guys, anytime you're almost anywhere, you see their name on the list of a sponsor, and it's because they get it. They understand this is, the type of thing that's hard to raise money for. There's not a big return on their investment. It's not the greatest advertisement in the world, but they are always there. They always step up, and I'm really appreciative for that. A couple of law firms, Montauk and LaFleur and Becker and Hebert helped out, so I want to thank those guys. I know Montauk especially is happy because we got good news about his nephew this morning, so I'm not going to say because I don't think we can, but I'm not on a teleprompter, so everybody's a little nervous, but I'm going to try to stay on course. And then Architect Southwest, Dr. Cersei, Southwest Group, Technical Inspectors in Venus also came up and wrote a check to help underwrite this, and so I appreciate it. And then, of course, the political side of me says, I have to say this is all paid for by sponsors and ticket sales. It's no taxpayer dollars is going to putting on an event like this. So in just a second here, you're going to see some key people, some experts to talk about some challenges and some opportunities that we had in 2016. And then after we kind of run through that, I'll unveil an initiative for 2017. As mayor president, I really represent 2,200 LCG employees. And so we have 9 departments, which means there's 9 directors and then the chief administrative officer. And I can't say, how much it means to have such talented people doing all the real day-to-day hard work. And so I'm going to turn it over to them for a moment.
I tell everybody that my job is putting out fires, picking up the phone or answering emails or meetings or whatever. It's all about, trying to put out fires. Every day, you just never know what's gonna pop up. That's the best part of this job.
The Department of Community Development is comprised of 4 divisions: Housing and Federal Programs, WIOA, which is Workforce Development, our Human Services Division, and the Arts and Culture Division.
The fire department is an emergency service organization that's involved in fighting fires, structure fires, doing fire prevention where we investigate fires and inspect buildings. And of course, we also have our own 911 system where we take calls from the public and then send us closest truck to the fire scene.
In the Department of Finance and Management, we record and provide financial information to the mayor and to the council so they can make accurate financial decisions.
The Recreation and Parks Department is here to serve. We like to look at it as we add that quality of life dimension. We know public safety is at the beginning of everything when we talk about fire and police, and we know our infrastructure. And we feel recreation falls into that next wave where through educational and cultural opportunities, not only for our youth, but our adults as well as seniors and those with disabilities in this community.
For the Information Services and Technology Department, we provide services to our internal customers, which are other departments and employees that we work with. We also provide services to our citizens of Lafayette through our website. We have services and information on the website that they can use in their daily lives.
Lafayette Consolidated Government, our Public Works Department really is focused on maintenance of our infrastructure and development of infrastructure. As you know, we've got new projects constantly being built, and that's a good thing between roads, bridges, drainage, facilities, buildings. Also, we operate and maintain, or at least try to maintain what we have, and that is a challenge.
The police department's focus for the last several months has been pivoting towards community policing and problem-solving policing, and getting our officers the opportunity to get to know the public more, be involved in public activities more so that the public gets a sense of what we do and where we're going.
The Planning, Zoning, and Development Department has 4 divisions. Planning, which is the long-range vision for where the city and parish are headed. The Development Division, which is preparing land for development. The Zoning Division, which works on complying with our zoning regulations in the city limits, also annexation, historic preservation. And then we have Codes, the division that basically gets your building up and off the ground, make sure you comply with building codes.
Lafayette Utility System provides electric service, water, sewer, and telecommunication services through LUS Fiber to the community of Lafayette.
The biggest challenges that my department faced in 2016 were 2. We had first the transition to the Unified Development Code, which went into effect at the end of 2015. And then the second was the unplanned challenge of the floods of August 2016. And you know, we processed about 1,700 flood damage permits. We had staff working nights and weekends overtime with, you know, making sure that people got back into their houses as quickly as possible.
2016, obviously our biggest challenge was the August flood event. When you have 4,000 homes flood, you just feel helpless. We've been working diligently since that time to try to see what we could do to lessen the impacts if we have a similar event.
Biggest challenge is recruitment and retention. A lot of times young guys will come on, they look at the big money and they all feeling everywhere else. They'll look at that and say, well, I don't want to be a firefighter because of that.
Budgets are all the same, whether it's private or public. It really is all the same. Numbers are numbers. But then when you come in and you have the shortfall that you did, and it was truly a challenge.
It really impacts our ability to provide services to the parish of Lafayette.
A number of our programs are dependent on grant funds. Unfortunately, our funds are dwindling.
Our facilities every year get older, so the upkeep and maintenance of, you know, over 35 parks, 10 recreation centers, 3 golf courses become a burden on the operational portion of the budget.
Technology changes constantly, and our staff is tasked with having to learn these new technologies. So you have to be fiscally responsible and make changes where appropriate.
Certainly one of our challenges today at the police department is getting our officers fitted with body-worn cameras. And at the surface, that may seem like an easy concept, but there's the equipment, it's the software, it's the storage needed for the amount of footage that we gather every week. It's a huge challenge. It's a huge undertaking, but we have a plan and we're going to get it done.
I'm gonna have to change it up for 2017 because when I ask them what their challenges were, I think most all of them are going to say having to sit in front of a camera and do, I don't know how many takes it took. They, the dread on their face, on most of their faces when I asked them to do it at one of our weekly Monday morning meetings was less than enthusiastic, let's say. But they really do the work every day, and only when there's a problem do they call me in, and so I can't emphasize how much I appreciate their effort. So for me, the first thing when I took office was I had to come in and assemble a team, and fortunately there was a lot of folks in the Durrell administration that wanted to stay and that are extremely talented, and so I was able to recruit a couple of folks, and so Robert Benoit was one of those. Robert Benoit is one of those guys. He was at one time the planning and zoning director. He had graduated from UL, and I don't know if anybody's fact checking, but I think he was in the first graduating class of the planning degree that the university offered. He became planning and zoning director. He was even public works director for a little while, and I'm not sure. There's times when I think he's a savant, but I can ask a question. Hey, I got an email, or somebody called about something somewhere, a ditch, and he'll say like, oh, yeah. Well, listen, there was Miss Terrio that back in the 70s didn't want that dug out, so we had to put a culvert, and it's just like, how does he remember everything that's happened? But we stole Robert. He got elevated to chief of staff at Louisiana Department of Natural Resources, and but I knew he was commuting back and forth, and so I figured we had a chance, and so I was thrilled that we were able to add Robert to the staff. Marcus Bruno had worked under Kathleen Blanco, also a UL graduate, worked under the Durrell administration, and I met him during the campaign process, and we just hit it off and became friends. And he's one of those guys, I said, look, I need you to handle government affairs. I need you to do these other couple of things. These quality of life issues is something that he's very passionate about. And he's one of those guys that wants to help so much, like he starts to aggravate you. It's just, it's like, no, look, I'll take care of that. You got other stuff to do. I'll take care of it. And so I just, I so much appreciate him and everything that he does and his willingness to really do whatever I ask. And he's been a great asset. I have Sidra up there. She was a holdover from the previous administration. Her background is, at the United Way, in the restaurant business, the chamber. And so her contacts, leadership, Lafayette graduate. And so when we came in, we expanded on online media. We opened up a Twitter account. I said, look, we need to get press releases out. And I think we did more press releases in the first 3 months than she had done the entire year prior to that. And as probably only my wife and Becky know, sometimes I'm hard to manage and corral. I've spread myself a little too thin, and Sidra's the one that bears the brunt of that. This event is no exception and probably the worst example of it. So Sidra, thank you for everything that you do for me. Also, I mentioned Becky. Becky was also with the Durrell administration, and on a daily basis as it relates to scheduling, she suffers with me. Kelly Reed has been in a bunch of different departments within LCG, and she's invaluable because she knows so much that we can go to her with any questions, and she comes back with spreadsheets, and I don't know how she knows what she does, but she's been great. Skyra's heading up our project front yard for us now, but she does so much more than that. But that's her main focus. And then Ariel is someone we stole from the library. We brought her in. She was so talented. We just wanted to get her in. She agreed to come in as our receptionist, and the first opportunity we had to bring her in as an assistant, we did that, and she's been great too. And so the directors and Lowell talked about their challenges, and so I'm going to go over a couple of challenges that we faced in this first year. And the number one was the budget. And so if you look at this graph, in 2011, you can see that our sales tax revenues were around the $76 million, and over the course of the next several years through 2014, they were looking good, actually. And the price of oil was, 96, 112, and in and out of that range, kind of for that whole period. And so the important thing to know about that time period is that's about the time that you decide to run for an office, because 2015 is the election, right? So you have to make your decision sometime in 2014 that, all right, we're going to get this thing kicked off. And so I made my decision right at the top of that. And this is what happened. So on election day, the price of oil was down to $44. By the time I actually took office in January, it was down to $37, and then continued to creep by the end of January under $30, all the way down to the $28. And so what that meant was we inherited a mess, and Lowell had alluded to it in his interview. And so this graph is actually not as bad as reality, because if you read the top, it's the city of Lafayette and the parish of Lafayette. So it's consolidated government together. If I had a graph for just the parish, it would pretty much be a line that's just going straight down. With the city, we were able to go at a slow decrease for a little bit, and then it collapsed. But the city of Lafayette has, maybe 4 or 5% decline, maybe 16 months in a row. So it was real, and it was felt, and it was difficult, but it was manageable. The parish, on the other hand, was 29%, 21%. So every month it was off from the previous year, and it was a much steeper decline than that. And that was the real difficulty there. And it made us have to make some really difficult budget decisions. I mean, I went to Lowell and said, all right, this is why we're here. So, let's not sugarcoat it. Let's go in and calculate it. And he said, okay, we got to cut the DA, we got to cut the judges. And I said, whoa. If you do that in other parts of the state, you get indicted, And, but the money's not there. I mean, it's not there, and it hadn't come back yet. And so we made some really difficult decisions and proposed a budget that had some really drastic cuts in it. And look, I'll be the first one. I'll be thrilled when we can restore those cuts, you know. And so we went to the council, and the council's been unbelievable to work with, great partners, you know, laid it out, showed them the numbers, and they understood. And it was one of those situations where, unfortunately, that's what we were faced with. And so they stood with us and made the difficult choices, and I really do appreciate that. The second challenge of the year came in August, and I think as most of y'all know, is the flood event of 2016. And so, you know, flooding's been an issue, and it's been an issue because of the Vermilion River, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. You know, we had the 27 flood, we had the 1940s flood, in 2013, I think it was, Karen Crow had the devastating floods. And so then in August, we had this unprecedented rainfall, you know, some areas 20 inches in 48 hours, some areas had up to 31 inches in 48 hours. So it was just a massive amount of rainfall. And the one thing that, you know, you're prepared for, or you think you're prepared for, is all right for emergency, you know, but you're thinking hurricane. All right, a hurricane, I'm gonna have 5 days, we're gonna get hunkered down in the bunker. I don't know if it's public knowledge where it is, so I won't say, because, but so you go down there, and, you know, and so I was thinking, okay, we'll be able to manage. But with this event, you know, on Friday, we were all at work. I mean, it was like, okay, it's still raining, you know. And by Friday night, we knew there was going to be some serious issues because the calls started to come in. So the one silver lining, I will say, I was new. A whole slew of us were new down there. The sheriff was new. It was our first opportunity to have to deal with an emergency, and the emergency response folks were incredible. I just can't even tell you how they all came together and, you know, started saving people from late Friday night all the way through the Saturday. And so for them, we can't ever thank them enough. So I'd like for all of us to give them a hand again. So from that second challenge, we'll roll into the third challenge, which is the recovery of the flood. And you know, that's one of those situations where it was heartwarming when I would go out. You know, I hear a levee's breaking, and so I would go out to the neighborhood, and the first thing I see that's blocking the road is a big yellow school bus, because there's a school that's sending students out to haul sandbags to block up the levee. And everywhere I went, I saw neighbors helping neighbors, schools helping out. The university had all kinds of different pockets of groups helping out, and so that was fantastic. But the reality is a lot of places that didn't have insurance got flooded. So there's a federal response of $1.6 billion that's out there, and it's still at the federal government. It hadn't made its way to the state, and until it makes its way to the state, it can't make its way to the locals. And so the money's there of 1.6, but when you run the math for all of the areas and all of the flood homes that were part of the flood that need that money, that 1.6 billion is going to run out very quickly. And so it's limited right now to low to moderate income, because everyone recognizes the need there. But that's leaving a whole lot of folks out. And if you had insurance, don't even think about the federal money. That's not for you. So with that, there's a lot of anxiety, and we're trying to figure out at the local level what we can do, but we're talking, you know, an extremely large number dollar-wise. And so we're in the process of that, trying to figure it out. We're certainly working with the congressional delegation to try to get one more batch of money sent our way, but as of yet, that hasn't happened. Recently, we had a press conference with an organization called 8 Days of Hope, and they work with all our other charitable organizations. And so the United Way and the Red Cross and all of these faith-based organizations all pitched in, have done incredible work helping people muck out their homes. And 8 Days of Hope came to me by Robert Benoit So I suspect in 20 years, if I ask him a question about 8 Days of Hope, he'll be able to tell me everything about it. But he started explaining to me that, hey, there's this group, they're a national organization, they want to come look at Lafayette because they pick a handful of places where they come in and do their missionary work, and Lafayette's a place that they're considering. So I said, sure, that's great. But listen, it's like they bring 2,500 people from all over the country. They need shelter for 8 days. They'll pay for, they fly in on their own dime, they feed them, they do all of that. They just need cots. They don't need anything fancy, they just need shelter. And so I said, well, 2,500 people, what are they going to do? And he said, no, they're going to come in and they're going to fix 300 homes. They don't care if you hadn't started or if all you have left is the quarter round or the molding in the quarter round. If that's all you have left, get your name on the list. And I was like, man, Robert, it's too good to be true. That's a godsend. Well, they looked at us in a few other areas. Unanimously, their board decided that they were going to come and do the Lafayette area, Lafayette Parish. Up to 250 to 300 homes is what they typically do. They're coming in June, and we can't say it enough. If you or if someone you know just can't get those last 2 rooms painted or hadn't even had the ability to get the process started, 232 Help, they're the register. They're taking down the names, the addresses, because as you can imagine, it's quite an ordeal. They have to go, they meet with the families, they find out exactly what do you want us to do. We're not going to give you the choice of 40 different cabinets. Here's kind of what you have to pick from. But they will go in and over that 8-day period, put 250 to 300 folks back in their homes. They don't care how much money you make. They don't care if you had insurance. They don't care about any of that stuff. They just want to know that they're helping families get put back together. And so it is true. It's not too good to be true. And they estimate that it's going to cost them probably about $500,000. So they do, on their website, ask for donations that come in from all over the country to do what they're going to do. They don't ask anything of us, but certainly I'm asking 8 Days of Hope, asking us to support their initiative. At the press conference, certainly unknown to me, Bishop Desatel with the Catholic Diocese came and said, all right, look, when Steve with 8 Days of Hope spoke, he said we need 500 and we're at 0. I'm here to tell you we're at 250,000 because the church is going to match up to 250,000 whatever contributions we raise. And so it was an incredible gesture. The 8 Days of Hope folks were really touched by that. That hadn't happened to them in any of the other areas where they had gone. And so it was just another gesture from this community about, how we are and how we do things. And so I can't ask you enough to get engaged. Typically, he says they have room. About half of the 2,500 are professionals. They're either electricians, plumbers, professional contractors, and then the other half are like me that just want to hold up the sheetrock or do whatever. So also they welcome local volunteers. So if that's what you can do, then hey, they're happy to take you in and put you on one of the teams that's going out there. Okay, that's it. They deserve a hand. All right, so that's enough about the challenges. So we all know the revenues are bad. We're hopeful, but I was at the state long enough to know after Katrina, we saw an uptick, and we're not going to make the mistake here locally of assuming that uptick is here forever. I mean, I can dive down into the numbers and tell that a lot of the fact that the decline has leveled off and we're kind of creeping back up, it's because we have a tremendous amount of car sales. We've got a tremendous amount of building materials that are being sold. And so until that kind of works its way out, that's when we really need to look at the numbers and see what we can do. So we're far from out of it. But we do have made progress in other areas, and there are some accomplishments. So let's go back to our departments and hear what they had to say.
One of our biggest accomplishments in 2016 is the ability for us not to have any reduction in program, any reduction in services. With our limited staff, we were able to continue to provide a quality product for the citizens of Lafayette.
We phased out the 35-year-old IBM mainframe computer that we had. We also worked with Target Zero towards the mayor's initiative to create a no-kill shelter.
The biggest accomplishment for the Department of Finance and Management was that we earned the Government Finance Officers Association Award for Excellence in Financial Reporting.
Under the leadership of Chief Thomas in 2016, the department established a special investigative unit that looked at cold case homicides and managed to solve several over the course of 2016, and that's an accomplishment we're particularly proud of.
In addition to continuing to have the most reliable electric utility system in the state, we have had the lowest rates in the state. We've had great responsiveness to the storm that came through. On the telecommunications side of our business, we see continued growth, continued profitability, and abilities to expand into new territories.
2016, we were able to open up a brand new fire station on Coran Road, fire station number 14. And for the past 10 years, we've been trying to build fire stations for growth so that we can provide and expand fire protection throughout the area. So for me, that's been the biggest achievement.
I feel our biggest accomplishment in 2016 was marketing ourselves and being able to establish partnerships and collaborations with a number of agencies and stakeholders in the community, one of which was the partnership with the Holy Rosary Development Board. We played a major role in securing a $450,000 National Park Service grant, which will go towards the main stabilization of the buildings.
We've got 1,000 miles of roadway here in Lafayette Parish, and just trying to make those repairs that are least inconvenience to the public. We've got an asphalt project that's fixing to start where we're going to do 56 streets and $4 million worth of work. We've got some significant transportation projects that are really going to have a big impact on this area.
Beginning in November, we have inspectors that will be allowed to do multiple inspections on a job site, mechanical, plumbing, electrical, etc. We also received approximately $6 million from the Metropolitan Planning Organization. Our planning division worked with them to apply for funds for capital projects, including 2 on University Avenue that we're really excited about.
There have been some progress made, and there will continue to be. And again, I appreciate the efforts of the directors and all of their staffs for making Lafayette better each day. As it relates to the mayor's office, we did roll out a few initiatives in 2016 that I'd like to touch on. And during the campaign, you know, kind of the mantra was working together. And so the first thing I did was reach out to the councilmen, you know, visit with those men and women. And I have to say, and I can't say enough, and I know there's a lot of them that are here tonight, what an absolute pleasure it's been to work with them. You know, we try to engage them in the conversation and discussion as we're you know, thinking about what we want to move forward, get their input, because at the end of the day, I think that's what we were all elected to do. So I'm not exactly sure where all the council is, but if you could raise your hand, I'm a little blinded there. So thank you all for coming. Thank you all for everything that you do. It's oftentimes a thankless job. I think most everybody knows that, but I want to make sure and mention that. And y'all do a great job, and y'all been a pleasure to work with. And then also, all of our other elected officials throughout the parish. You know, one of the things that I wanted to accomplish was to have this parish-wide focus. And the position that I'm in is a very odd position, to be honest with you, because as the mayor of the city and the parish president, sometimes what's best for the city of Lafayette is not good for the parish, and sometimes what's really good for the parish is not good for the city. And so I have to talk to myself a lot and figure out, you know, which way I'm going to go that day. And the council has to do the same thing, because most of them represent some piece of the city and some piece of the parish. And that makes for some difficult decisions. But I reached out to all of the other elected officials, and so I know there's some of them also here in the audience today. So if you could raise your hand, our mayors and city councilmen from our neighboring municipalities. A real joy to work with, and whatever any of us do to kind of enhance this parish that we all live in benefits all of us. I mean, it doesn't matter who's winning, who's losing. It changes from week to week, from month to month, from year to year. But really, we all benefit from everything that each other's doing, and so I want to keep that relationship at the level that we currently have it. We also kept the radio show. Joey had done a radio show. We're on Thursday. Joey did it a little earlier than I like to do, but we do it on Thursday mornings at 9, and it's called The Sport of Politics. And sometimes we get off topic of local, and we talk about the national, because that was the year that the presidential election was on, and so I enjoy doing it. Against my better judgment, I have a note here to give you the call-in number. So 706-0111, because it is an opportunity for the public to engage and to tell us what they're thinking, where there are areas that we can improve, and so we welcome that. And we want to hear from the public. All the elected officials want to hear from the public. We really like hearing from you when you're nice about it. But either way, we understand it's our job to fix the things that need to be fixed, and so we appreciate that. Also, one of the initiatives that we rolled out was the University Gateway Corridor. And for any of y'all that pay attention, and sometimes we just pull off the interstate and don't really pay attention, if you look at our exits, they're not that good. They leave a lot to be desired, and if someone that's never been here before takes one of those entrances into our city, I feel like we're shortchanging ourselves, because that's the first impression they're getting. I chose university as my focus to improve the gateways, even though I'd like to improve, all of them, because that's the university. That's every parent that's thinking about taking their kid to the university is going to, in all likelihood, take that entrance and that gateway into our city. And when I look at it, it's got so much potential. And so we've decided to commit money with the council's support in the next bond issue that we do, that there'll be money to start just the simple things, just the aesthetic improvements, to where we've planted trees, we build sidewalks, and we make it look presentable. You can tell that there's a lot of activity because there's dirt paths everywhere that there's not a sidewalk. So people are walking, they are riding their bikes along that corridor. Of course, they're doing it on a stretch of land about this wide and only about 8 inches from the road itself. So Carly had mentioned in hers the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and that we had received $6 million in funding in 2 of the projects as it relates to University Avenue as part of that money. And so between that and what the council approved to move forward, we're going to be able to do some great things on the corridor. The next step is we got to go and do the community outreach to hear what the folks that live and work and play along that corridor, what they'd like to see. But I'm pretty sure our visions are all going to be similar, and it's going to be something that we can all be proud of. But as is the case with most things in government, you got to keep in mind it's a long-term initiative. It's not like the council and I can say, all right, let's go do this, and then a year later it's done. I wish that was the case, but it just doesn't work that way. And so bear with us, but certainly participate. When we have these community meetings and the outreach, participate, share your ideas, because ultimately that's going to make for a better product for us. We have the I-49 corridor project, which has been in the news quite a bit lately. But the reality is this project gives us an opportunity to reconnect in a way that has not existed for at least 50 years, and maybe even more than that. I'm drawing a blank on exactly when the thruway was put in, but not long after, whenever that date was, I think the disconnect started to happen. anytime you have 3 lanes of traffic on one side, a big patch of land, and another 3 lanes, you're taking your life into your hands to try to, go across that in any way if you're not in a car and you make your way to one of the lights to cross. And so the connectivity that I think can happen with the corridor project is extremely important. Another thing is that this project, we're talking hundreds of millions, possibly close to $1 billion. And so the economics of that for a community cannot be overstated. There's all kind of studies about what's the return on investment when you're spending that kind of money in the community, because all of those people are there for the project and they're helping build it. And while they're there, they're in hotels, they're buying homes, they're renting homes, they're eating, they're out, they're doing all the things that we all enjoy. And so there's this real cycle of economic activity that happens for a project that size. And that particular corridor is going to be known as the United States Energy Corridor. I mean, it's Port Fourchon to Canada. It's in a way its own pipeline from one coast to the other. And it has the luxury of having I-10 cross it right in the middle of Lafayette Parish. That is also a coast-to-coast interstate. And so the hub of activity that revolves around that kind of connection with that kind of interstate connection is something that I don't think most people can truly get their head around. But it is an economic catalyst that can change Lafayette for the better going forward and forever. And lastly, but just as important as any of those other things, it's the evacuation route. And we hope it's never used, and it may only be used once a decade, sometimes even less than that. But I can tell you, when the warnings come in and something's coming, it's an important road for everybody that's on it to try to head north. And so, we don't need the bottleneck that currently exists. And the last thing I want to say about it is we've committed to the project. We, as in my administration, with the caveat that we have to get it right. And get it right doesn't mean perfect, and it doesn't mean to find something that everybody agrees on. But we need to get it right because it has to provide that economic life for everybody that lives in and around it, and it has to connect us back in ways that is long overdue. Probably the most popular initiative that I had come up with early on was the no-kill initiative for our animal shelter. I remember diving into social media during the campaign, and when I announced that we were going to work towards a no-kill shelter for the year 2020, it was the most popular I've ever been on social media. I spiked up, and I've leveled back off, but it was an impressive wake-up call just to how important this initiative is to so many people, and I can't say that many people in the grocery store have said, hey, thanks for cutting the budget the way you did. I mean, it's long overdue. Or but man, I'm telling you, I've had people stop me about that no-kill initiative everywhere I go. It's a passionate group, and it's something that seems like would really be so easy. Which you may ask, well, then why are you taking 4 years to do it? But I just wanted to give us time. We took a lot of first steps. We partnered up with a national organization called Target Zero that tells us how other communities have accomplished it. One of those things is going to be that we're going to have to introduce some ordinances to change the way that we deal with neighborhood cats and that type of thing, and it'll take cooperation from the council for us to get that in place. But without the ordinances, we've been able to really make some substantial improvements in our live outcomes, which is the nice term, as opposed to the no-kill. And so we've just simply done things like we hired an adoption coordinator. We changed our adoption hours. It used to be from 1 to 4:30, Monday through Friday, which is kind of when no one could go. So we've expanded those hours into the evenings, and Sidra and the group came up with Second Chance Saturday adoptions. We didn't do any on the weekends. The second Saturdays of every month, we have a weekend adoptions. And all of that's been working to get us significantly better than where we were, but still a long ways to go. And so that initiative is progressing. We're going to get there. There's no doubt in my mind. I ask for a little patience because, again, it's government and it works slow. If I wanted to introduce the ordinance today, the council really wouldn't be voting on it for another month or so, depending if we wanted to come up with amendments. So it's never as fast as any of us want, but it's an important initiative, and we're going to get there. So the next part of the presentation, I went to the directors when I asked them to do the videos, and I asked them about our culture. What makes us so special? What is it about our culture? What is it about Lafayette? What is it that they like? They all have families. They live here. So, you know, they know, or I think they know. We'll find out. But so I asked them to share their thoughts and feelings about Lafayette and what makes it great in the culture.
As a Cajun from Breaux Bridge, where I was raised with the food and the music and was so proud of it, but yet saw at one time where people thought maybe it wasn't so cool, it's great to see it becoming an economic driver in our community.
Lafayette's a special place, and it's our Cajun culture, and that is my link. I grew up in the Cajun culture. I love our language. I love our people. I love our food. I love our music, and for me, that's what makes this place so special. It's a great place to be police chief.
The culture of our community is everything to me, and it's why I live here.
Our area provides culture that can't be mimicked in any way, cannot be duplicated.
The fact that we take the time to celebrate our culture, to celebrate each other, is something that I connect with the most.
It's amazing how we pull together in a time of crisis, such as we did in the last flood.
People just, pull up the bridges and go help one another. And I don't know that you see that as much anywhere else in the country. That's just the way it is. That's the way we are. That's the way we live. And that's what I'm so proud of.
What I love most about Lafayette are the people. Even in this job where you have to make some decisions that will affect people adversely, they're still great people to deal with.
When I moved here, it was an easy transition. The people are just so warm and friendly.
The friendliness and the hospitality of the people here is just unbelievable.
The fact that my 2-year-old has become used to the idea of festivals and celebrating, singing Mardi Gras Mambo and saying, "Throw me something, mister," is something that connects with me and makes me feel good about being home.
And I just feel lucky that in my role in the planning department that I'm able to do things to help support and continue our culture.
So again, it was a big ask of me to our department heads, and I appreciate the fact that they participated. I have to say, though, that our first choice was to grab a bunch of kids and pose the question to them, which we did, but it didn't really turn out that well. So most of them said, "I don't know," or looked at their shoes. Although one did say Spider-Man. That was what he thought culture, or she thought culture was about. So I defaulted to the B team, and they did a great job, and I appreciate it. I also asked Jim Bradshaw, award-winning journalist, historian, and a special guest about our history and our culture. And so let's watch what they had to say.
A couple of things that created Lafayette that were key points in the growth and expansion of Lafayette. The first was the donation of land by Jean Mouton to create what is now downtown Lafayette and build the courthouse and the town hall. The second was the coming of the railroad in 1880. That took the little town that Jean Mouton had founded and made it into the hub city of South Louisiana. The creation of SLII, now the University of Louisiana, what in 1900 was the third great impetus that drove us forward, that brought something here that nobody else had, that opened our new horizons to our community. The creation of the oil center was then the thing that just busted us wide open, and through all of this is the single thing that Lafayette has been a community driven by its civic leaders who went out and got the oil center, who went out and brought Interstate 10 to, who went out and got the railroad, who went out and got the university. And we've always looked beyond our borders since the coming of the railroad. Practically every group that has come here has a story of exile. They have all come here because they were forced from someplace else. It wasn't the same story of exile, but it was a story where they could empathize with each other. And that Shaq, I know what you're talking about. And that has created a certain tolerance.
I went on a trip to Canada with 28 tourism folks, and I said, why do you send people to Louisiana? Well, you heard the food and the music, but each one of them had a story. I'll tell you one because it was here in Lafayette. There was a group of seniors eating dinner, and over in the corner there was a dance teaching Zydeco. And they came over and pulled those 8 seniors out of their chairs and taught them the Zydeco dance. Now this tour lady told me from Canada, that was 3 years ago. Those people still talk about it today.
We are just different, and in a good way. You know, people come here and they don't come to see a fancy museum. They don't come to see skyscraper buildings. They come to experience who we are, experience our culture. And when they do, they love it. And they come back and they bring a friend. And the friend comes back and brings a friend.
The challenge we've got is to get those people that land in New Orleans to understand there's more than just New Orleans and Louisiana. New Orleans is going to be fine. You know, I traveled the state for a year campaigning, and I told everybody it's a 38-to-1 return. For every dollar we invest, we get $38 return. Until I had the job, I didn't actually see it, and it absolutely is true. So we're going to have to get creative, and we are, but the return on investment doesn't lie. I tell you, you're fortunate to have leaders in this parish that truly get it. And I couldn't be more proud of all the elected officials in this region, how they've stepped up to the plate and gone beyond the call of duty for the arts, for culture, for tourism. You know, in some areas of the state, you have one that stands out. Here, they all work together, they're all pulling the same direction, and it's a lesson for the rest of the state to learn and how it's done.
So I want to, obviously, Jim and Billy said some really great things. I know there's probably other elected officials here. I don't know if there's any of the legislative delegation, but if so, could you raise your hand? Because anytime there's a code-of-fill issue, there's a French immersion bill, you know, it's the Acadiana delegation that's pushing those things through to help keep this culture that we have and sometimes take for granted. And so to everybody that Billy, I think, so eloquently put it, I mean, we have a group of leaders everywhere you turn that want to do whatever it takes to keep us moving in the right direction. And then Jim, you know, I mean, I could show you all the whole video. His historical knowledge of this area is incredible. We had to try to cut it down, but it's a fascinating historical event just to sit with him and hear him talk about everything. So I want to talk about 2017 and the initiative as I see it and what I think is extremely important for a number of reasons. It needs to be parish-wide. It needs to be interagency. It needs to be multi-year. But we need to expand and we need to grow our cultural economy as we go forward because it is an economic driver here. We all know that the oil and gas industry is the economic driver. And we've done incredible as it relates to health care as being an economic driver and these new technology companies as economic drivers. But if you look at the numbers and you're honest with yourself, the number 2 is our cultural economy and the amount of money that it brings in, and I'll go over that in a little bit. So I think we need to expand our efforts to tell our story, and so that anyone that's planning on visiting Louisiana, or even visiting the southern part of the United States if they're coming from overseas, that on their list is they say, hey, I need to go see about this place I heard about called Lafayette, Acadiana. We need to share who we are and what we have. It's really our calling card, and we need to take advantage of it. So I want to talk to you first about culture. We need to look at all the relationships that we have, all the assets that we have, and just get an inventory of it. You know, when you try to put it all down on paper, it gets overwhelming really quick because you know you're forgetting about something that's going on somewhere in Lafayette Parish. So we need to take that kind of cultural census. We need to develop an asset map and lay it out in a way that the public has access to it, not just visitors, us, just so that we know what all we have to offer. And then we need a relationship map. I'm going to talk to you a little bit later about the Grammys, but there was an email that was sent out saying, hey, I need some information on the Grammys, and I reached out to Ben Berthelot. He put me in touch with somebody from the Grammy organization who said, hey, we served on a committee together, Joel, you know, a few years back, and so it's just putting all that down to where we know when we've got that outreach. So it's our culture, and we need to figure out the best way that we can to brand ourselves and take advantage of it. All great communities have great recreational opportunities. We're extremely fortunate in that it started with Pelican Park. Youngsville now has built theirs. Broussard's close to completion of theirs. So we've got these elements that exist now that are going to attract pony tournaments, soccer tournaments, in a way that we really haven't been able to do. We have 35 parks in Lafayette Parish besides those. And so when you combine that, we have 10 rec centers, we have 3 golf courses, and they're all alive and they're buzzing. And one of the joys of my position is you get to learn so much about what goes on. And again, at the Showcase of Culture, you're going to find out about a lot of things that goes on in our Parks and Recreation Department that I promise you had no idea existed. And but we need to continue that. And the parks are a parish responsibility. And there's no parish tax for our parks. There's a city property tax to support it, but not a parish one. And that makes it really difficult to do what places like Baton Rouge and Chattanooga and some of these other areas are doing because the revenue's not there. And it's a real problem, and we need to figure out a solution. And one of the things that we can do in parks that I've had discussions with Gerald, and he's ready to move on it, and I know Nanette Cook and I have had conversations about it, is to start to use technology in ways that people can access it. And if they want to reserve a pavilion, they want to reserve a tennis court, they want to participate in any way, it's a mobile app away from them being able to do that. And but those kinds of things are great ideas, and they serve such a important public need, but they cost money to do that. But it's something we desperately need to do, because whether people in my generation or older like it, the millennials are taking over. I mean, they're here, and I love that they're here, but they're not going to let us continue to do things the way that we've been doing them. They want access the way that they know is available, and so we have to stay ahead of that curve. One last thing on the parks. The Kiwanis have been a great partner. They did the first park here for children with physical and developmental disabilities, so I wanted to make sure that people are aware that there is a park in Lafayette Parish for those families that want to engage in the park experience. And I'm not even talking about hunting and fishing. I mean, we have that just because we have it. And so we do a better job with our parks, and it's only going to make us more attractive to businesses that want to locate here. The third thing I want to talk about is entertainment. We have like a dizzying amount of entertainment in this community, I think, as most of you know. And I said I was going to talk about Grammy nominees. When I reached out, I said, how many Grammy nominees has Lafayette had? And they sent me some reports from 2008 to 2017 at the Grammys. And so this is in no way meant to be derogatory towards any other communities in the state. Lake Charles had 9. 6. Baton Rouge had 9. Now, this is, as you're walking the streets, what's the chance of you running into a Grammy nominee? Shreveport had 28. The rest of the state had 10, with the exception of 2 cities, Lafayette and New Orleans. Lafayette had 150. So your big old New Orleans had 3 more than us, 153. And so when I saw that, you know, it's something intuitively we think is true, but until you see it, you realize, you know, this is an incredible place. I'm going to go off script just a little bit, but I was fortunate to go to the Katie Anderson Center for the Arts and to watch, I think it was William Bell, who actually won the Grammy this year, and his group. And while we're sitting there, I'm looking around, and I'm noticing some of the names from the research I had done, and there was a Grammy nominee. You know, there was probably 7 of our Grammy nominees, some of them winners, in the audience watching. And across the hall in the same building, now this is, I think, a Thursday night in January, like the 3rd week of January. Across the hall, they were honoring Preston Frank with like a Lifetime Achievement Award for his Grammy nominees, and his son that has won a Grammy. And so they asked if I'd come across and say a few words. So as soon as the production in the theater was finished, I kind of zipped across the hall, and they brought me up, and I was standing on stage, and I look out in the audience, and besides Preston and his sons, there's a bunch of Grammy nominees in the audience. And I'm thinking, well, you know, where else on a Thursday night in the 3rd week of January can you go to one building and be around that many Grammy nominees? And it just resonated with me how impressive this place is when it comes to musical talent. And so I'm going to continue with entertainment because it's not just about the music. We have all the festivals, which are mostly musically inclined, but we've got the International Festival of Cardigan, the Black Pot, Scott Boudin Holy Fest, the Latin Music Fest, the Celtic Bayou Festival, Acadiana Po' Boy, which is actually on Saturday, Dewey Balfour Cajun and Creole Heritage Week, and I hesitate to even list all of those because I know I'm missing some. We have all of our Mardi Gras festivities that are entertainment. We have this incredible live music scene. We have Bach Lunch, Downtown Alive, Louisiana Crossroads, Rhythms on the Rivers, the Mercury D and Karen Crow, Sugar Jam, La Maison de Begno Jam in Scott. And again, I don't know how many I'm forgetting, but I just was rattling these things off and writing them down. And so it just keeps building on itself. We have the Hyman Center where the symphony plays. We have Angel Hall. We've got Artemis. These are all live music venues. Blue Moon, Grouse Room Legends, Préjean's, Randall's, Warehouse 535, Route 92. Again, I don't know which ones I'm forgetting, but I'm rattling off all of these places that on any given day of the week, you can go somewhere and hear music in Lafayette Parish. And I'm not even factoring in just these spontaneous jam sessions that these musicians have. You know, hey, why don't you come by the house and we'll sit on the porch and they'll play music. So it's just incredible how much. And so some of the talent, you know, obviously we have Hunter Hayes and we have Lauren Daigle, who have both won multiple Grammys, not just been nominated. We have Cupid that blew up on the charts. You know, the American Idol and The Voice. I think The Voice, the article in the Advertiser said we had 8 from Lafayette on The Voice. We currently have 1 that's still in the running. American Idol, You know, I don't know how many we've had, but most of us know there's got to be close to the same number that have been on American Idol, and that's in all genres. That's not just in Cajun, Creole, Zydeco music. So entertainment is a huge component of our culture. Let's move on to the arts. We have the Acadiana Center for the Arts. We have Cité. We have the Hilliard Museum. We've got unbelievable artists that are nationally and internationally renowned. We have Frances Pavey. We have Virgie Banks and her tricycle. We have, for those of you that know where City Hall is, we have Robert Dafford, who has painted murals all over the world. A Lafayette resident that wanted to come back and give something to Lafayette. We have Philip Gould, and we have the Floyd Saunier that was such an iconic artist in our time. And so again, I'm leaving out hundreds of artists, all the up and coming artists. I'm just saying, just off the top of my head, I was able to scribble down an impressive list of talent. All of those things that I've talked about so far as it relates to culture benefits our tourism industry. We have cultural attractions that are built to help our tourism industry. Acadiana Village, Vermilionville, all of our restaurants and our music venues, our hotels that have over 7,000 rooms. We had roughly 3 million visitors come last year, which was like 80 to 85 million in hotel receipts. And so it was about a 60% occupancy. And so that tells me, as a CPA, that means I got 40% capacity. So that tells me that I can almost bring in another 3 million and be able to handle it. And so it'd be great if Lieutenant Governor is right, and it is 30-something to 1 return on investment, then I can't fathom what better use of money to spend than to try to double the visitors that we have here. If he's wrong and it's only half at 15 or 17 to 1, it's still an incredible investment, and I can't fathom a better investment that we can make than to something as simple as, hey, let's figure out how to get more people to visit here. It's not that expensive. And of course, we had the highest, when the organizations that do the satisfaction surveys, Lafayette's #1 at 89% satisfaction rate. We're #1 in the state. And so all of that leads me to the economy. And, you know, Lafayette is competing with the Nashvilles and the Austins, the Chattanoogas, Kansas Cities. We are unique in so many ways, but we are now, from a technology standpoint, we're one of these gig cities. There's only 15, I think, in the whole United States. US Ignite has recognized that Lafayette is one of them. So these companies, these technology companies, are going to give us a look. And when they give us a look, they're going to want to see, why would I come here? I got it. They're a gig city. That's why I'm here. But any one of these 15 can fit what we need. And that's where I come back to the millennials. These are the coders and the programmers and the high-paying jobs, and these are the ones that are going to keep Lafayette Parish as the shining star of Louisiana. You know, my biggest hurdle when I was in the legislature, anytime you asked for anything, the other legislators, for the most part, would say, oh, come on, Lafayette doesn't need anything, y'all have everything, you know. And that's a real burden, but that's how the rest of the state views us, as this diamond in the middle of the southern part of the state. And so we need to do whatever we can to parlay what we have to make us that place where these companies are going to want to move. The entrepreneurs, I was just in Austin, the entrepreneurs, the innovators, the startup companies, they're looking for a great, cool place to set up shop and to operate. And we have managed to get on the list of 15 thanks to Fiber Initiative by LUS. And so we need to take advantage of that. I mean, there's no other. You know, Nashville is the country music capital of the world, but you know how they got that? They just made it up. And they did a great job of marketing themselves as the country music capital of the world, but I challenge any of you to go back home and Google pictures from their downtown and their area for 25 years ago. You don't even have to go that far back, and see the difference of what that community looked like 25 years ago, that little sleepy downtown that just had no activity, to where it is now. And they, like I said, they just decided this is what we're doing, and it's going to change our economic diversity in a way that's going to put us on the map to where we can now compete for technology companies and these millennial startups. We don't even have to make anything up. We just have to be willing to tell the story and to spend a little money to tell the story. People want, that's the beauty of being from here and being the mayor. Everywhere I go, when I say where I'm from, they know a couple of things. They say, well, he likes to eat because they have good food there, and he likes music. And those two things mean conversation is easy. They want to know about, hey, tell me about Lafayette. Explain to me what it is. How do y'all have the music? Where did that come from? You know, they want to know everything. And so it's a real easy transition to us saying we want to capitalize on that. So the process going forward is what do we do for this CREATE initiative, which encompasses all of those things: culture, recreation, entertainment, arts, tourism, and economy. I like to think of it as the C and the E on the end are the cultural economy, and all the stuff in the middle is what makes it up. What is it that we can do? I don't know, but I'm going to try to figure it out. That's quite an initiative, right? So I know this much. I know that everyone in this audience, all of the incredible talent that you're going to see back in the Showcase of Culture, they know more than I do. And so they'll be able to take this vision and help me figure out a planning process, an implementation process, and what we need to do to put ourselves in the position that I think we need to put ourselves in. Ultimately, I know it's a branding campaign, and it's just figuring out what that is and how we want to go about doing it. We're going to have to, like I said, have some of the planning. We're going to need to really assess all of our assets so that we can market ourselves in the right way. Incredible buy-in already from Ben and the LCVC, as you might imagine. They obviously recognize the benefit of more tourism dollars. LEDA has been a great partner. They see the vision. They're ready to get on board and help us. LaCentre, one at Acadiana Center for the Arts. It's going to be a broad-based effort, but it's as much as all of those organizations and me and government, it's about the community. And so, tonight we're going to launch the website, and it's going to go live. If you go to the Robideaux Report, you'll see the URL to go in and start giving us your input and give us some ideas, and so that we can figure out what the next best steps are. Because ultimately, whatever ideas we have, it's up to the council members and the administration to figure out the process going forward. And I have full confidence in the council. I have full confidence in the community to help come up with great ideas. So let me go and conclude here. It's a multi-year commitment to get to where I want to with the CREATE initiative. Like I said, we've got just an incredible amount of assets out there. And for those of you that my generation and beyond that couldn't figure out how to purchase tickets online for the showcase, the box office is open for another 30 minutes. Once we conclude, I would encourage you to go visit some of our Grammy nominees and winners to experience our food. We have, I think, close to 20 different restaurants, including some with dessert, and to go check out our municipalities where they're showcasing things that are important to them. And then I think we have 3 different stages with all different types of entertainment. And like I said earlier on the radio and on TV, I promise you, every one of you will walk out of the showcase and say, at least about one thing, I didn't know that existed in Lafayette Parish. And so I encourage you all to go and participate. And so with that, the tickets are $50, but remember, it's a donation because that money goes to the Community Foundation of Acadiana to allow us to establish the Strategic Initiatives Fund, which is going to be so important for the future of Lafayette. I told you about the kids and the Spider-Man earlier when we asked them about culture, and so since they failed so miserably at that task, I decided I still wanted them in, and so we've got a video here because there was people before us like Bradshaw explained that built what we have. And so we're all the beneficiaries of a lot of people's hard work over time. And so like I had mentioned, it's 10 generations have passed since those people had decided to do what they did and make those really incredible decisions that allowed us to be who and where we are. And so we need to now be those people, and we need to put ourselves on a path forward that when someone's standing on stage, you know, close to 200 years from now, they'll say, you know, that's a group that kept things going, and that's going to be the community, and it's the community leaders that are going to do that for us. So thank you all for coming. I look forward to a much better budget year. I'm hopeful, and that we all have a great, prosperous year, but let's end it with the kids in a video because these are the ones that are going to be the next Grammy nominees and making us all proud. It was such a good idea, it just didn't work out. But thank you all for coming. Have a great evening, and I'll be looking for you in the ballrooms as we go experience what makes it so great. Thank you. Good night.